Good evening. Today is Wednesday. Is it August 1st or 2nd? 2nd. We're going to do the pledge and we'll start with our meeting. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Fritchie,
Present.
trustee White. Present. Trustee Casada,
Present.
deputy mayor Lopez, and Mayor Levin.
Present.
Public hearing on the matter of proposed honorary street naming for Sandy Galoff. Do we have anybody in the audience? We have no one here, so do we have anybody in the audience there?
We have nobody, not a soul.
Okay.
Hey, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor and trustees announcements?
Before we do that,
Oh, sorry.
no, that's fine. We will go into it. Do we know a date or a place, or somebody going to follow up with Sandy Galoff on this? Do you want me to follow up? I mean, I just don't know who's doing.
I'm gonna follow up with her. I've been in touch with her daughter-in-law Elizabeth and her son Greg about it. So I can double check to see what the dates are that work for her, because I know she had a big travel plan this summer.
Yeah, great retirement. So yeah, no rush, no problem. Just let us know. So great, thank you. So mayor and trustee announcements. I'm not seeing any. So just want to remind the public that Friday is the fire department parade, starts at 7 p.m. and the viewing, it ends in downtown. There's a viewing stand for those of you that want to be more comfortable, etc. But it basically goes from not Camp Woods, but from Otis Campwood Road. And goes on the parade goes, always a fun part of our community events. So please join us. And I just want to do a shout out to our youth advisory bureau. You know, the kids are great. We're doing tours. Me, the trustees, village manager, etc. Part of our community engagement for the DRI projects and adjacent projects is to be at Market Square. We finished our 8 sessions of community engagement through Zoom and a whole bunch of other things. So one of the things we're doing is tours, and today invited the Youth Advisory Bureau plus their chair and a couple of our staff folks. And we were in the community center. They had there were like 20 kids, which was great. Very inquisitive. Talked about everything from jobs to opportunities to gentrification to infrastructure. It was great. The weather was great. It was really like a nice time. We took a tour, and hopefully we'll be getting some more questions from them as well, but trying to engage some of the, I hate the word youth because I don't actually think young people call themselves youths, but I don't have a better name. They're mostly teenagers, although there are a couple of people in their early 20s. So very much enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll be able to do another tour another time to more work being done. They seem very optimistic and positive, especially about the community center. A reminder that in September, it was in the mayor's message, we just, for the record, we're starting work, serious work in 2 phases on the community center. And so please stay tuned on our website. And also the park and the community center has its own website, the rec department, for information. And we're very excited about those upgrades. And I think we are ready to go.
Okay, administrative reports, village manager Karen Dottori and treasurer Dale Bryant.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's that exciting time. We're a little past midway in the year, so Dale and I are here to give our first half review of projects and finances. So Jamie, if you could put up the project presentation first, please. All right. So we've got a lot going on, and I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly because I think we've talked about a lot of these projects at several meetings, but there are some highlights I want to point out. So we have over 12 projects, and actually more. There's, in addition to the 12 listed here, there's really 4 additional DRI projects, as well as a couple of things that aren't even on this list that are still going on nonetheless. If we go to the next slide, please. We are just rounding the corner of finishing the 5 corners. So we have almost everything done. We're going to be tightening up some bollards with some new footings because they weren't quite as sturdy as we needed them to be. Then we will be planting. And then this fall, we're looking at putting the stanchions up and the lighting. So this is a project that's been long awaited, but the 5 corners in Ossining is newly paved, and once the lighting is in, it will be much safer, easier to cross, easier to walk. And so far, the feedback's been pretty good. We did this within the timing and within budget. So, and most of the money was provided through a grant from Sandy Galiff, $850,000. And we also received state aid from our paving dollars, another $240,000, which was used to complete the job. Next slide, please. The Climate Action Plan project is a county-wide project, and we've been working on this project with the county. The county received $100,000 to do an assessment of greenhouse gas use, and we've been charting our use in 2019 and comparing it to current use and using that as a baseline to look at ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and hopefully become more sustainable in the future. That project is wrapping up. We're happy to be a part of it. While it did not cost the village anything, we did put in considerable amount of staff time. So I want to thank all the staff who were involved in it, including Assistant Village Manager Maddie Zahach, who working with the rest of our staffs was able to the best of our ability capture our greenhouse gas use in 2019 so that we can use it as a benchmark going forward. Next slide, please. We have a community development block grant, which is a federal program, and that will be for part of that money is going to Nelson Sitting Park. And in 2024, we'll be replacing some playground equipment and replacing it with more equipment that's inclusive for children with different abilities and developmental and different developmental stages to play in the same space and bring everybody all together. We've done a project similar to this in Vets Park, and it was received very well. So we're looking forward to incorporating a park in Nelson Sitting Park as well.
Do we have any parks after this that don't have inclusive playgrounds?
Those would be the only, this one would be the one that then we'd have 2. The rest of them probably over time will upgrade as well.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Also through the CDBG Community Development Block Grant Program, we have money for streetscaping, and this is to help with walkability, ADA compliance, but it also helps mothers with small children and strollers and shoppers, and it aids in overall walkability of the village. You may have noticed that we've already started on James Street from State Street to Route 9, and that project will take about 2 months, and we will end it up with, we'll do the streetscaping through the county funds, and we'll also end up paving James Street as well. And then next year, we'll be able to work on Spring Street from Broad Avenue to Lafayette Street. And hopefully we're waiting for word from the county, but we'll be able to do phase 2 of that project probably in 2024, 2025, maybe. And that would be in an ideal world for Lafayette to Rockledge Avenue. So that would complete Spring Street and complement Nelson Sitting Park Playground very nicely. Next slide. Okay, great. So last week we had the report, our consultants from Mitchell Associates reported back on the study that they did about exploring ways we can consolidate our current firehouses and make sure that we can incorporate new facilities that meet safety standards for our first responders. this is going to be, now that we've done the study phase, the next phase is really for the board to determine next steps, but also we need to identify a site ultimately and make sure that we have a place that works for the design requirements that are needed. With this grant does come the opportunity to now go for more grant money that would then pay for the capital cost, towards the capital cost of a new firehouse. It was a really interesting study. We learned a lot during the process, and there was also some good information on what we can do to our existing houses now to make sure that we can improve them as best we can to make sure that they meet the health and safety requirements for our first responders. Next slide, please. So Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant at long last is out to bid. Today, we had the first of 3 mandatory site visits, so it's exciting to be out there. There was a good response. And the bid opening is scheduled for September 19th, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that this comes in within our estimated budget, hopefully lower than our pre-bid estimate of $68 million. We do have some funding towards that. We're going to be putting towards that through ARPA, about 2.5 million and another $160,000 for a green roof grant. But we are very hopeful that we will get more funding, significant funding. A $10 million Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund grant was submitted last week, and next week we will be submitting a $30 million intermunicipal grant and a water improvement initiative grant for about $5 million. So for $5 million rather. So we are hopeful that we will be getting more money than we have right now to offset the cost of this plant. It is probably our biggest and most expensive project by far, but it's also one of our most important, most vital projects. This project ensures clean, pure drinking water for many years to come, and our current plant is past its useful life. Were we to continue with this plant, we would end up over the next year or two with violations, or the next several years until we transfer over to the new plant with violations. And we don't want to be in that situation. So a lot of planning has gone into this, a lot of angst, a lot of concern, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that the ratepayers do not suffer with higher water rates. So we're doing our best to make sure we can get every grant dollar possible. Next slide, please. Project Mover is moving along, but like any big project with a lot of partners is taking a little bit longer than we anticipated, but we are seeing progress. This is a project where Ossining was picked essentially as a test site for micromobility and e-bikes, and we're partnering with other municipalities, Tarrytown, Dobbs Ferry, Croton-on-Hudson, and the town of Ossining, along with our neighborhood partners, Open Door Family Medical Centers, Neighbors Link, Hudson Link, and IFCA Housing Network. And this is a way that we can bring e-bikes to all in an equitable fashion. It is a model program, so we're hoping that if successful, we'll be able to replicate this throughout the area and the county. But it is a really good way to bring technology, make it more accessible, more affordable, and ultimately get more people to use it so that we can reduce our reliance on gasoline cars and also benefit from health and wellness that you get from biking outdoors. So we're excited to be part of this initiative, and we will keep you posted as we have new updates on what's going on with Project Mover. We have kicked off our, we had our first meeting. Let me say this, we're waiting patiently for the Department of Transportation to put this project on the Transportation Improvement Plan, which is imminent. We're hearing that will happen any day now. Once that happens, we can start designing in earnest the Route 9 road diet, which is really a narrowing of Route 9. We know that diet doesn't adequately address what we're doing, but we are going to, for a 1 mile stretch between Cedar Lane and Nelson Park, we will be reducing the road to 1 lane each way, which is the way it originally was. It's only a mile stretch of road. And that will also aid walkability, bikeability. It will support economic development. So we're excited about that. As we move forward, we're looking to our first major project downtown will be this project. And this project will help us not only in facilitating walkability and bikeability and making the crossing the street a lot more safer in this immediate area right near Village Hall, but it also will add additional parking, which will be helpful as we start our parking renovations on some other in other parts of the village. So it'll help offset some of the displacement that will be inevitable as we address, get to the point where we have different but more accessible and appropriate parking to suit the village as it goes through this phase of reinvestment and revitalization. Solarization is a big part of that too. So next slide, please. We have already completed our operations center solar roof. So we're happy to see that complete. Many of you were at the ribbon cutting we had for that. It was a great event. And we're on track for our trade station to also have a solar canopy on the east side of the tracks. And that'll be starting in the fall. So 2 projects, one completed, one looking close to completion. Even though it hasn't started, these go pretty fast, we found, once they get started. This will be a bigger project. We'll also have to work with the community, make sure that we can address parking at the train station during that time. And we will be communicating clearly what our vision will be for providing access to spaces that are not too inconvenient. Thankfully, we're still the lots still aren't full every day. So there's plenty of room in that lot as well as on Central Avenue. Right across the street from this project, we have our mixed use affordable housing project, 30 Water Street. This project again is something the board brought forth in 2019, and we're just seeing it hopefully break ground in 2024. These projects take a long time. There's a lot of government agencies involved, but it has been entered into the Brownfield program, and that's a very big step in the right direction. If all goes well, we will be breaking ground in 2024, and within a few years, we'll see 109 units of all affordable housing there, along with a parking structure and a beautiful park that will facilitate the continuation of the Sing Sing Hill walkway and bring it to a lovely sitting area and provide a nice access to Station Plaza and the riverfront.
Can I just, on that one, make a recommendation that in that second bullet, should put in that there's parking, both for the tenants and also because parking down there is a challenge.
Right. So that's an important point. There'll be parking for the residents with a parking structure that you can see. If you're looking at the building, the prominent picture on the left, there's a smaller where Jamie's pointing. That'll be the parking structure. The top floor will be 45 spaces of municipal parking space that anyone can use. Next slide, please. So a lot of what we do in Ossining has to do not only the projects we're doing today, but what they'll look like tomorrow and the sustainability of those projects. And a lot of care and effort goes into planning for our waterfront, which we do in joint partnership with the town of Ossining, since they also own property there. So we have a few different projects there that we don't talk about quite as much, but one is the continuation of planning for a living shoreline in Lewis Engle Park and Henry Gordine Park. We were awarded funding funding was awarded to a consulting group, HDR, who worked with us on developing a plan, which we were hopeful that we'll be able to implement in the near future. The Village of Ossining was also recently awarded a $50,000 Hudson River Estuary grant to create a riverfront resiliency plan. And this would also build on the work that we've done with the town of Ossining, and also help really make Lewis Engle and Henry Gordine Parks more sustainable in the future, so that they can weather the impact of sea level rise, as well as still be a place where we can enjoy recreational activities and the beauty of the Hudson River. We'll be starting work on that project this year, so we're excited about that. And we were also awarded a local waterfront revitalization program grant, and this grant will incorporate planning initiatives that will build on planning that we've done through the comprehensive plan and the Downtown Revitalization Initiative Strategic Investment Plan that we did through the DRI. And again, continue to address and build on resiliency and initiatives that we can take on and actual real improvements that we can make to our waterfront so that we can have an ability to use the riverfront the way we do today, enjoy it for the future, and preserve it based on whatever may come our way to the best of our ability. So a lot of planning, but also smart planning, because it really helps us anticipate what our needs are now and what we'll be doing in the future, and it makes sure whatever we do is sustainable. So we're excited about that as well. But that's a careful and thoughtful initiative. We're happy to be a part of it. We're happy to be working with the town on that. Not all communities look at their waterfronts the same way, but in Ossining, we're very much mindful of the fact that that is one of the greatest outdoor assets we have in terms of providing recreational activities and a wide range of opportunities to relax and enjoy that can be more limited in other areas. So keeping that public and keeping it sustainable and keeping it useful for the long term is our primary objectives. Next slide, please. So the Village of Ossining, as many of you may know, and certainly everybody here knows, was awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative $10 million New York State grant in 2021. And we went through a long planning process, and there were 5 projects that were selected as village projects, actually 4 projects plus a public-private partnership that was born out of the 4 projects. So I'm going to just go through each project, starting with the next slide, Jamie. Our beloved Joseph G. Caputo Community Center is already undergoing, it's getting ready for a pool facelift, which will be starting on September 11th. And we'll be resurfacing the pool and incorporating new lighting, but we'll also be redoing the locker rooms, adding a family locker room as well, which has been a widespread request from people throughout the community. It's well used. We will try to keep it down as short as possible. We anticipate the construction time will take it offline approximately 2 months. Hopefully we'll be able to work a little faster than that so everybody can get in the pool again. And again, that work will be starting on September 11th. We'll also start planning for a facelift for the rest of the facility. It is a great facility. It's a large facility. There's a lot of space. It's not always used as best it could be, and it is in need of some updating. So we're looking, we will be issuing a design RFP as soon as we get our state contracts. And all totaled, we have $3 million to put towards this project. So we anticipate the project will cost a little over $6 million, but we have a good chunk of it paid for already, and we're excited to get started on this. Just so I do want to comment that the contracts, we had a meeting with the DRI team from the Department of State today. The contracts coming from the Department of State that allow us to start working on these projects, we anticipate hopefully by the end of the year. So once we get that paperwork done, we can start working because without that paperwork, that really is the guarantee that we need to make sure that we can spend and draw down those dollars.
So if I just want to make sure I get the timing right. 2 months first, phase 1 is the first 2 months, beginning Monday, September 11th. Then there's phase 2 where people will be able to use a pool because you're doing locker rooms, surrounding area. Then you're starting more of the DRI once you get the funding in 2024.
Correct.
Not the pool only.
Right.
the
So
whole place.
The pool and the locker rooms will be done by the end of 2023. Then we will start, hopefully we'll have the contracts to start the rest of the work, 2 separate funding grants.
Mhm,
So that's why we staged the work the way we did. We'll be getting, hopefully the contracts will be by the end of the year, and we can then start the design work. So the first phase of the work on the rest of the community center will begin with a design phase. And then once the design is done, we will go out to bid and the construction phase will start. So it's, we'd love to work quickly. And I'm, in doing this, we're trying to put together realistic timing because we hate to always extend the timing. We're hopeful that we can get this project completed even with the timing that we're working on with the state by 2026. So this will be one of the first big DRI projects that we're going out with because it really isn't as we can do this in a way, I think that we can stage the work and we can also make sure that we can keep some programming active and it's a bit more isolated than our other projects, which are really dependent on each other to go forward with.
So from a form of communication, we could probably maybe think about taking down at the 5 corners that big sign, or maybe leave it another month or so because the lights haven't been done or something like that. But I think it's helpful if in the community center, we put not quite that size, but upstairs and downstairs, sort of big posters explaining like this is what's happening, put the QR code for the website. So as it gets updated and really update it, like at the end of 23, at the end of 24, because it's a 3-year project, right?
Yeah.
It starts in 23. That's not really DRI. That was a different fund, but the funding doesn't matter. All people know is work's being done. So we're starting with this. I mean, I think just putting the 4 phases or 3 phases and what that entails. And so far, I'm only hearing that during one of those phases, the pool is closed and won't be able to be used, but everything else, but there's probably other areas where we're going to have to cancel programming because you can't have people walk around in a construction site.
Correct.
So we're going to have to start doing some nice signage like under construction for 2 months, whatever. We don't do that often enough. And, I just think we should focus a little bit on that. Because that's a very highly used, and we don't want people to start rumors and fill in the gaps when there's no need to. It's pretty much very well planned. Once we get the renderings, I think we should blow them up and put them in somewhere so people could see, like, you start with these pictures, then you move on as it gets more real looking, and then people see progress, which I think they're very excited about. I don't think people are going to complain about upgrading. They're just going to complain that they wanted to use a service for 2 months that they can't use. That's all. I mean, or maybe they can't go to camp in one of those years. So that's what we're going to hear about.
Correct.
Love it. The other piece is the recreation blast that goes out. That might be another place because that's a place where people look for every month. The pool schedule comes out and so forth. So that might be a place to preview that some of these changes are coming.
Correct. And we did, now that we have the definitive date for the pool, that information went out in the mayor's message. We're doing some posts about it. We're certainly going to, we'll be putting up flyers in the community center. And, I think the idea of having renderings and pictures and building that momentum is great. So we will incorporate that for this project. And as we move forward with the other projects, give thought to how we can communicate that more fully, because it is a lot going on and the signs are helpful and it helps people to actually know what's going on instead of relying on rumors or hearsay. So thank you.
Aaron, before you move to the next. So my concern is the timing. So when you said, I get the first, I don't want to say first phase, but the stage where we are, the pool, the locker rooms is going to be done this year. And then you talked about the rest of the community center. There's going to take 2 years to get completed. I don't see that being the case because based on what we already have paid to a different architect to do the analysis of the spaces and how do we reuse the spaces, none of that stuff was structural except for maybe 1 or 2 pieces. Everything else, I want to call it as a cosmetic and how to rearrange things and furniture and layout. So I just don't see 2 years of that. Could you
So
elaborate a little bit more on that? You don't
Sure.
have to do it today.
Sure.
Just my concern is when we're talking about 2 years is just a lot.
I think there will be some structural, like it's not going to be substantive, but there may be some walls that are taken down for shared lighting things. I do agree. And what I've tried to do here, because it's really hard to say, like sometimes we all know, like we're doing a project and we think this shouldn't take that long. And 2 years later, we're still waiting for whatever
I
reason.
just don't, I just don't want this to become an elevator situation.
I think that we're trying to balance the realities of supply chain issues and timing, and also because we may want to keep there's different ways we can do it. If we decide we're shutting down the whole place, we get the job done, it's done. That's one way to do it, and we do it in less time. If we want to have it phased in because we want to have programs running, there's different ways to do it. What we're trying to do is under promise and over deliver to the best we can. And the timing, in a perfect world, we were supposed to have the state contracts in February of this year. We still don't have them. We were told today another 6 months. I'm hoping.
again,
So
then I want to make sure that when we send this message, when we put a QR code, when we put in these renderings, we want to make sure that I want to say it is like, okay, this is the stages that we're going
Yep.
through. For me, it's like you can send the RFP tomorrow, which we give you the okay for that already. So
for
for-
this,
for the community center and all the phase 2, I want to call it.
so
sure.
we okayed the RFP for the multimodal site. The RFP, the challenge with issuing the RFP, we're ready to do it. We could do it tomorrow. We can do it pretty easily. The challenge is with the state, if we don't have the contract and we start expending funds, there's no guarantee that we'll get those funds back if we start work before the contracts are sealed. And my concern is I'm very conservative about that because things change.
And I get it, but this is part of the DRR grant fund, correct?
Right.
So that means that no matter what, 5 years from now, hopefully it's not 5 years from now, but 5 years from now, we're gonna get that money back, correct? Are we gonna get that money?
The state, yes,
Okay.
but right now, without a contract, there's always the chance that something could happen and the state could change their mind. So
So you,
until we
tell
have
me-
a,
so again, so and I apologize. So you're telling me that the state can change their mind and say, we're not gonna give you the DRR money?
without a contract, I have
That's
no
true.
without a contract, I have no guarantee because each DRI project goes through a separate agency in the state of, most of our projects are going through the Department of State. Some are going through Homes and Community Renewal, so each agency works differently.
Get it.
And
So
even
this
though we're
then-
granted the money, until we get the contract, we can't start the project.
Okay, so then it goes, and then I want to rephrase what I said. So then we should not be talking about these projects at
Um,
all, because if we don't have a contract,
Well,
but that's what in the way you're
I
telling me,
mean,
sure, that's what
I
we're
don't-
saying.
I don't think that's what I'm saying, but I'm trying to I'm doing the best I can in a situation that we don't have full control over.
I'm not
so-
disagreeing with you.
I
I'm
just think
actually-
that she's giving you the entire arc from 2023, 2026, but
I
in.
get it. I
but-
just don't want to mislead that, we're talking about this now, and for argument's sake, the contract doesn't get signed until 2024, the end of 24. And that means that pretty much we're gonna be saying this presentation every 6 months. We're gonna say pretty much the same thing, and the community is gonna be like, what the heck is going
Well,
on here?
she took that into account based on previous,
That's why I
it's
extended
22
the
to 20.
time.
Because she
Right.
took that into account. So example, the e-bike, 6, 7 months now, we're waiting for stuff. So she's figuring, I think, I'm reading this like phase 1, definitely we're doing that. Phase 2, that's definitely.
Yes, phase 1 is
we're in-
because we
we're
are
in
paying for
control.
that.
We're in control. The other stuff is 90%, but 90% is not 100, but it's also not 20%. 90% is, I gamble on that. I bet on that. But so far, they've been 6 months late all the time. So I'm gonna put that into the project plan because there's gonna be dead time. The way this works, and it works like this, the e-bike thing, it's all 6 months late. Doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. It means it's 6 months late. That's all. It means that there's dead time. Why is that important for us? Because at some point, Manny, we're gonna have to think if there's 6 months or 9 months of dead time, do we run and let programs run, have people sign up their kids for camp?
That's-
Or do we
That's
want to
part of the
say,
problem. Yeah,
we're not having
exactly.
camp this year? Nobody quote me, but I'm saying, we're not gonna have camp this year because it's gonna fall right in that time frame, and we don't want people paying for camp and then struggling to find another camp. We might have to make a decision as a board that says we have a more than 90% likelihood because there may not be a delay. We may get going very quickly on one part, so we can have programming, but maybe in the following. So I think the arc is long because there's an expectation of dead time.
So let me go
Nobody
back.
knows where
I-
the dead time is.
Totally
That's the
agree with
problem.
you. So my follow-up question to before I got interrupted was, so regardless of what the state comes back to you at some point with a contract or not contract, and I'm gonna go what Rika was talking about is exactly that, is like November is like almost around the corner. Like I'm pretty sure Dell is already working on the budget. But we need to figure out what happens in 2024.
So
And without having a solid answer, is like we're gonna be putting
Well-
programs out there that we may have to
Well,
cancel if the funding comes
I
in at
don't,
some
I
point.
don't think that's the case because the reason I don't think that the case is regardless, we have enough lead time. So
Okay.
we're anticipating, we were told end of year, maybe early, whatever. I think end of year, based on what I'm saying, I think it would be difficult for this. I don't think it's going to be the end of 2024. Let me just put it that way. We're also doing a lot of, like, we can draft the RFPs now. We can have everything ready to go. So we're not stumbling, like all that. It actually gives us a lot of prep time that we wouldn't ordinarily have to tee everything up so that when we do it, like we're ready to go, we're hit the ground running. The planning stage is going to take some time. It's going to, because we're still going to do community engagement. Even though we have some designs, that's not the final design. Those were conceptual designs. So they can change somewhat. We do want to have enough time. So we're going to have a few months. Once we know what we have in the design phase, you're still talking about like probably 6 months to complete the designs and plans and go out to bid. That will give us enough time. We need about 3 months in advance of programming to anticipate what we've been doing. So I think we'll be okay in that regard, even if it gets delayed, because we'll just shift and be able to, the worst case is we're going to be delayed. The likelihood of us starting earlier than we think we're going to start is probably, so we're working backwards
Only
from
a
that.
2-year project. I mean, look at it, it's 2 years.
It might be
Municipal
not.
work, I guess, is 2
It-
years, or maybe longer. But so let me go back to another question then. On all these DR projects that you are talking about here, do we have a contract signed on any of them?
We have the contracts for we have the contract for $1 million for the multimodal site, which is not DRI. None of the DRI contracts. They're all through
That's-
Department of
that's-
States. We don't have any of
That-
those
that's-
signed.
So we don't have anything right now.
No, that,
Okay.
like I said, we had a meeting today and they anticipate 6 months. So, but because we have different projects with different funding streams, we can start at different paces so we can keep.
Again, my question was, do we have any DR projects signed right now? You say no. That's all I
No.
need to know.
So
Okay,
all
that's-
the ones we're waiting
Okay.
for will, we were told today will, hopefully happen by the end of the year or 6 months, but end of the year, let's just hope for that. So, but on the next page, the multimodal site. So this is really, the way we're planning this is that, again, with timing and design and everything, we anticipate, we'll be wrapping up the Route 9 road diet in 2025. But during that time, we'll also be planning for the multimodal site. We actually are issuing the RFP, and that's the RFP that you gave approval to issue. And that we can issue because $1 million of that funding is coming from Empire State Development Corp., which again, different agency, different rules. We do have the contract, so we can go forward with the design portion of that. So that is going forward. And then I want to talk about, I think we've talked about the project. It's going to offset parking in the surface parking lots for the benefit of anybody who's watching. And this is going to be built in the Brandwood Street lot. And ideally, we will be leveraging our e-bike connection. So you will have a bike rental kiosk there and really make it truly a multimodal site and sustainable with a solar roof and more decarbonization strategies. So again, everything done with a nod to sustainability. But I think that's what's, the most important thing, and I'm going to get to a work plan where we'll talk about how we're going to coordinate all these things. And again, things are in flux, so it's going to take a lot of coordination and timing and flexibility, but we will do it in a way that we cause the least pain points to people in terms of offsetting parking or creating street disruptions. The next project in the sequence, and I'm kind of going through the sequence that, we're going to be starting these projects. Streetscaping at Station Plaza, which is really, similar to the work we're doing on James Street and Spring Street, is really making it more accessible, more pedestrian friendly, making sure that our roads are safe, beautifying them to a large extent. And this work will ideally be done because of location when the streetscaping is done for the 30 Water Street project, which we anticipate would be in 2025. Again, everything's subject to slight variations, that we're doing the best we can with the knowledge we have to date. But this way, as 30 Water Street goes up and the developer is responsible for streetscaping in front of the building, we can extend it and work with him to make sure there's continuity and maybe leverage that funding a little bit more fully so that we encompass as much of the area as possible down at Station Plaza. And then for anybody who's watching, what you're looking at right now is the intersection of Main Street and Water Street, looking towards the train tracks and towards the river, and that's Harbor Square in the background there. So the next project, so this isn't exactly a DRI project, but the DRI projects we were funded on were contingent on revitalization and redevelopment of Main Street, the Main Street area. So the Board of Trustees has selected Wilder, Balter, and St. Catherine Group as the preferred developer of what we know as the post office site, to do a mixed use structure on that site. And that will have parking for residents again, but will be displacing parking that's typically used for shoppers and certain residents now. That will be built in the multimodal hub. So in order for this project to start, we have to have the parking done in the multimodal hub first. So we're anticipating, in a sense, we're starting with this project now because we're doing community engagement. The project more fully through the planning process and construction phase 2024 to 2027 is probably the approximate timing based on what we know now. Then we have Market Square. Next slide, please. Right across the street, we have our Market Square site. And we have money to completely repave and add more green space, stage area, seating area, possibly restrooms, maybe some sort of structure so we can have more of a protected market if it in inclement weather or year-round market, certainly more useful for events and different types of events, and really making an outdoor amenity where right now we have kind of a parking lot and a small park area. We anticipate, again, in staging these projects, this would come after the mixed use development because they're going to need a staging area. That is going to be the most nearest staging area. We'll have the parking offset already, so that shouldn't be an issue. And hopefully we can complete that shortly after the mixed use development is completed or around the same time, depending on how that goes. Again, we're trying to play with this, but this is the anticipated timing based on the knowledge we have right now. We have a $2 million in DRI funding to go to this project with a local match of I think the local match was a little over 3 million that we had to use. So it should have been in here. I apologize. We do have a total cost for that. I think it's 3 million and change, but we'll be looking and obviously the design will inform what the total cost is as well. So, and then if you go to the next page, this gives you a sort of a visual outline of what we're looking at in terms of timing and how the projects lay out based on what we know now, based on how we know we have to stage them. So over the next 5 years, these projects should be complete or nearly complete. I didn't guarantee we're going to do it all in time. I'm trying to make the best possible guess based on, again, on the information we have now. But in 5 years, you're looking at a pretty different Ossining because these all go, in concert together. And hopefully, I only put to be determined on the firehouse consolidation because we are still trying to identify a site and there's more discussion required on that. But we have a lot of things moving forward. And with that, we've we're working very hard internally on these schedules, what it looks like and how we can be responsive and make sure that we're coordinating and planning to the best of our abilities to mitigate any of the disturbance that you typically have during a construction period. We have formulated a good project management team that spans every department that's involved in these, which have project manager leads for the specific projects, as well as support staff and grant administration staff. And we're working collectively. We are meeting regularly on this now to start discussing what these things look like and to make sure that everybody's versed with the terms of the grant so that we can keep up with the grant administration and that Dale will be able to then easily draw down when we are ready to draw down funds. So that sort of ties up everything what we're doing, but there's more. So one more slide. None of these projects we really, except for maybe the solar panels, we talked about that, but there's a lot of things that are going on here every day, despite all these projects, and we're still getting other stuff done thanks to the support of the board and the community and our volunteer groups. We have flag raisings, we have events that we celebrate. We have something going on almost every single night, especially during the summer, but in the winter months too, through our recreation and parks departments. We have new programs. 7 programs are running out of our youth bureau this summer. We have pollinator gardens that have popped up at Wishney Park along fences by the bus stop on Spring Street and all over the village. You're starting to see more native plants being planted, as well as some beautiful annuals in our flower baskets. I have to say, I think our big bellies are working well. It's looking good downtown and people seem to like them. So that was a good investment, and maybe we'll see them spread through other parts of the village where they can be just as useful. And this week, you can ride the elevator at 16 Croton. There's no charge. Finally got it done. So things are moving along. We're busy, but again, it's a good sense of coordination, and we'll get through it all. It's a lot, but it's a really good team too.
So before comments on that, first of all, thank you. Lots of stuff. I mean, this one slide alone could each be a major project. I did go through, we redid the garbage and the area behind the buildings. I think that should be up there. It's a real boring infrastructure issue, but people working on it, along with the landlords and all of that. That place was not only an eyesore, but it was awful because the Croton, the walkways, the aqueduct trail where people come in the summertime from the city, from north of here, it's a 41-mile trail, and you walk by and you're walking by garbage piles, right? When you're walking by there. Also, there are businesses there. Also, there's Open Door there, so it looks great. I mean, I was there again today. So it almost looks like I can't remember now how bad it was before because they did such a great job. It's hard to remember what it looked like, but I think it should be added because a lot of what we do is just good old fashioned fixing bad situations and rethinking them. And they take a lot of work. And they're not even, it should be up there, even though it's not exciting, but that's part of what municipalities are supposed to do. So I think that should be added. I can't think of any, other ones, but maybe colleagues will think of some others. But really, thank you. It looks great. Dale, it doesn't look like you have much to do. I mean, it's a Dale and Karen presentation, but I'm noticing it's, but
She has a PowerPoint.
oh, I was hoping to really get around that whole thing. Okay, are there any comments or questions in addition? Obviously the sequencing is a big deal. You don't have the Olive Opera House, the town piece with the stage, because that too, and Open Door, which has nothing to do with our projects, but they are going to have a major project going on simultaneously. Somewhere there has to be a side of the projects which affects the village, which needs to be coordinated. I mean, it's the same handful of people doing all the work. It's, it's not like there are more people that we bring in for this. State doesn't send people down here to actually do the lifting. So, you know, I think that adjacent projects should just be mentioned because people will just assume it's us doing it, but it's not. Okay, I don't know, comments, questions?
I'll just underscore what the mayor said, gratitude and the amount of teamwork that goes into it. One thing I know that we're focused, as we should be, on what we need to do in the short term and the medium term in order to get a lot of these projects done, especially with a lot of uncertainty with the timing. I'd like to keep an eye toward the very end, once all of the projects that are on this list are done, what's something that we can put, even if it's just sketched in pencil now, that we can get in pen later on, but a celebration in the same way to bookend when we got the DRI, we brought everybody together, Haverstraw, the governor, everyone, let's get everyone back and show what we've been able to accomplish. And maybe it'll be 10 years from that point, but okay, that's fine. We got everybody at the 10-year anniversary of the DRI, big check. But this time it's a big key to the village or something like that, because I think that it would be a great kickoff to, I mean, maybe we can, there's maybe another milestone anniversary that the village has or something like that. But I think it would be a great way to recognize the amount of work that went into creating this now new phase that we're in.
That's great.
Thank you. Wow. It's a whirlwind. My head is spinning. It's going to be a busy decade. Not that anybody's thinking ahead or anything. I like how you think about the party. That's great.
Gives you something to work.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, open bar.
If you have a party to work for,
One thing,
a lot of party prep.
one
At
thing,
the front.
one thing I'd like us, and what we do, but communications, because something goes haywire, something's going to happen, whether it's weather related, an act of God, you can't control it. You're paving, not when you thought you were going to be, and, communicating with the entities that will be affected by anything like that. And is there, I know sometimes you just can't let everybody know within the space of 2 hours that something happened, but I don't know, maybe we need some sort of, national public radio broadcast emergency system for if something goes wrong. But I know it's a challenge, but just a thought.
Well, we are trying to work better and better, particularly with the business community, to have everybody on a email list in neighboring areas and make sure we communicate as effectively as possible. It is not always perfect, but we will constantly strive to make that better.
So, my ask will be, if you guys can concentrate on one project and get the DR money to the whole amount. I not that I don't care about the other projects, 'cause I think they're all very important projects for our community, but I think the parking structural, without that project, nothing else can happen. So, if that's delayed, if that for some reason gets delayed by 6 months or 9 months, that means everything else on your schedule that you have for 5 years means nothing.
Right.
It just gets extended for another year, if anything, at least. So my ask will be pretty much, if you guys can concentrate and get that project completed, which I believe is what, a 2-year project, 18 months to 2 years, maybe
In a
more or
perfect
less?
world,
Yeah.
that should go pretty fast.
Yeah, so that's pretty much precast, pretty much the more the work that you guys have to do is the prep on the site, pretty much. But anyway, if you guys can accomplish that in the next 2 years or year and a half, I think everything else is gonna fall in place. Again, if you guys can, and not that I don't care about the community center, but if we can get that done, again, nothing else can happen.
Correct.
So in the 10 years that my colleague was talking about, it's not gonna be a 10-year. It's gonna be more like 20 years from now. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm hope that it won't be that long. One of the, the way that DRI works is once you get the money, you have to start on the various projects within a certain amount of time. I think we think long and hard about this. That's why we're hopeful that we, the Route 9 goes in while we're planning for the plan right now is Route 9 goes in. That should go fast too. It's getting through the planning and approval process with the state. That's always going to be the hardest thing. But if that goes well, then we have some parking as we're working on the parking garage, those two projects, the implementation of them it's the approvals and the, pre stuff, and more so for Route 9 probably than the other one. So we'll try to do it either way, though. If they flipped, it would still work. Those, and then to the degree, because the community center, as you said, trustee, is more of an internal cosmetic job, that may indeed go a lot quicker, and it may not require as much staging. So there could be things that we're doing there that aren't upsetting parking as much. And that's what we're sort of waiting to see how that falls out. But what we will do is we'll fine tune. And if we have to move something up to move something back and make it all work, what we'll try to do is ensure that we can do that, because to your point, the coordination of these things is what's going to make it. It's not doing the jobs. If you did them all at once, it would be a disaster. So, staging them and just making sure you have it just right is critical. So we're playing with a few unknowns, and hopefully there's not other unknowns. But I think that we have as good a handle as we can have on that. And we also have some, we're working on our plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds too, to make sure that we're anticipating as much as we possibly can.
Very exciting stuff, frankly. Very exciting stuff. Like, we've been talking about it. You videoed it. You said this is what we should do, but now it's actually coming to fruition. So, yay. Look how Dale is excited to go up next.
And next, I have to make sure I said treasurer. I have to make sure I'm in the right place. Our treasurer, Dale Brennan.
So this is still part of the manager's report, I think, right?
Yes. This is the most important part.
Hey, Dale.
Thank you, Village Manager Testori, Clerk Donnelly. Good evening, Mayor and Board. Jamie has my presentation up and queued already. Thank you, Jamie. If you could go to the next slide. So as Manuel had hinted at, we have started the budget process for 2024 because it's a very long process. But this is a snapshot of 2023, just as a reminder as we're going through the 6-month review. Item of note, our second half village taxes were due by July 31st. As of today, we are 97% collected, and actually a little smidge better than last year. So that's fantastic. We will wait a couple days for the mail because we do accept postmark for taxes before we send out letters to property owners for open amounts. So the next slide is a picture of our unallocated fund balance amounts. So going from 2021 to 2022, for the general fund, we put in about 1,326,000. For the water fund, we put in the fund balance 1,146,000. And for sewer fund, we added 217,000. As we're going into 2023, those beginning balances were changed a little bit. We did allocate another 263,000 from the general fund earlier in the year for the capital project. And for the water fund, I'm going to bring to the board a budget adjustment so that we can pay off the third final piece of the original ban for the water treatment borrow. That way we're putting the monies that we have been increasing the rate for, back against actual debt for the project. So that will eliminate our original $3.8 million ban because we've already paid off installment 1 and installment 2. So at this point, that would bring our fund balance for water fund down to 7,959,752. But projecting our end of year, we will probably put back about 2.5 million into the water fund when all said and done. That's conservative. Any questions on this slide?
The sewer fund doesn't change from 22 to 23. Everything always changes, so.
We have not allocated any fund balance from sewer fund in 2023 and not during the budget process either. Okay,
Why not? I'm just. why would you-
usually we'll do it if we had a budget gap during the budget process, which we don't with the 5% rate increase, we're able to cover the expenses for the year. And we don't really have too many sewer fund projects. We did fund one at the end of last year with fund balance, but it occurred in 2022. So it's already included in that balance, and that was for the sewer cameras.
Oh,
I think it was about 110,000 that the board had approved, and we contained it in December of 22. Okay. So the next slide is a snapshot of all of our revenue lines, which range from real property taxes, which we just spoke about. Other property taxes is where we budget for our pilot payments and tax penalties. Non-property tax items is sales tax, the majority of it. PEG revenues come into our department income, general government support line. Public safety is building inspection fees. And then the police voluntary duty amount goes in there. Transportation is parking, that's municipal train station and meters. Of course, our recreation program revenue. We have our dumpsters that we bill quarterly. So 2 of the 4 quarters have been billed. Intergovernmental charges are invoices to the town for services provided to them, and they're at 50% at 6 months. So that works out. Our interest earnings is in the use of money and property. Also, rental of property revenues go into that line as well. License and permits are for building department permits, street opening permits. Fines and forfeitures are the justice court fines received, and that's amount is only through May. Actually, I just got June yesterday, so
So they're all in the negative because we're midpoint. is that right?
exactly. Mhm.
These are not trend lines that you count for. This is actual at the end of the year, and we're halfway through the year.
Right, that's correct. And on the next page, I have a few bullet point items on the revenues. If we want to go to the next slide. Great. Nope, sorry, Jamie, back up one, please. Okay, so for our first quarter sales tax revenue, they came in at 4.26% less than 2022's first quarter. The second quarter is projected to be an increase of 2.42 from 2022. But the first 2 quarters that we will receive in sales tax will equal 60% of our budget. So it's not a budget concern when it dips a little bit because we are conservative in how we budget. Parking meter revenue is on target for the budget. Sorry, Sue. Train station permits are under budget, so we will be discussing this during the 2024 budget process with the board. Recreation revenues projections are hitting or exceeding budget amounts, and day camp revenues have come in 74,000 over the original budget amount.
The revenues, they're not the net, though.
No, this is just the revenue side of the
Expenses
equation.
go up, okay.
Mhm.
That's not the full story, okay.
Those will be on the next pages. Our interest earnings are exceeding budget, by 390,000 right now. I know. Unfortunately, we are going to pay more to borrow money.
Yeah.
So we will, find out. We did have, a ban, closing for, the town. We went to market on July 20th and the interest rate came in at 3.8281 or 8182, almost 4%, which is what we anticipated was going to happen, actually 4%. So I was slightly relieved that it was actually under 4%. So we will go to the market for the village in early September to renew our ban. We are not doing any long-term bonds at this point, and I wouldn't want to if we can avoid it in this market, because then you're going to put yourself into a situation that you would not be able to call it for, I think, 7 to 10 years, depending, to lower your interest rate. Whereas a ban, it's a 1 year. So if we get 4% this year, but next year our interest rates are going down to 3 or 2, if we're lucky, then we're renewing that money at a lower rate. You're not locking yourself in for a long-term 20-year bond.
But it's the same thing if it goes up,
Mhm.
then we,
Right. And speaking with our finance consultants, they're hopeful that the beginning of 2024, it'll start,
Election year.
it'll start go
Presidential
back
election.
down. Mhm.
But it might, but he's right. I mean, it could also just go up and you're not really. It's
Mm.
going up, but they're listening to the financial experts, but
Mm.
election years tend to be, the election year plus.
Mhm.
Election year, you're gonna have to see where they're going.
Mhm. So we will, as always, keep an eye on that. So thank
The
you.
record though is pretty good, right? Following the advice for the past 10, 15 years.
Yes.
So we've gone through a recession, we've gone through,
Mhm.
low interest rates. It's been a pretty good record, right?
Mhm. Yes, very, very, very happy. So building permit revenues are 31% higher than the 2022 first half revenues. So
you
that's
know
awesome.
why?
Not in detail, no. I could look into it though.
I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get more information when the budget gets here and,
Expense.
well, that's, no, believe me, and that's my next question because I'm concerned about overtime. So I'm not sure if you have that overtime in there, but
There is a building department slide that we will get to shortly. Yes. Okay. If we are any more questions on this slide, the revenues. We'll turn to expenses, which is on the next slide. So this is our 3-year expenditure comparison. So this is the total general fund budget at the 41 million. To date, we're expended at 39% of our budget. Compared to last year at the same time period, we were at 42%. Sometimes it's just timing. It's timing of invoices when they get paid. I like that our employee benefits are trending lower than they were last year at this time. So that's a good sign and is helping decrease our total expenses to date for the mid-year point. But general government, which is our first graph there, it is a little higher than the previous years. And when I looked into this one, it was because we had paid our IMAs in June of this year to the town instead of July like we did last year. So that's why it looks elevated, but it's really just a timing. So general government consists of the board, and the mayor and the manager, the
Yeah,
finance.
Putting it over the top, but there we go.
The finance department, corporation council, personnel, central garage, IT. So those are all considered general government. For your public safety, which is the next
So
graph.
general government includes not just the corporation council, the legal department.
Mhm. Yes.
What about lawyers and the outsourced lawyer? That go into
That's
general?
as well, yes. Yep. So public safety is your police. Thank you, chief. Building and fire are in those categories. Transportation is all of our Department of Public Works, your street cleaning, your snow removal. All of those budget lines are in that arena. Economic opportunity and development is mostly the marketing publicity line is located there. Culture and recreation, parks, recreation and the youth bureau are contained in there.
Oh, okay.
So is that the reason why it's slight higher as well?
That definitely could be, yes. Mm-hmm. Or timing. Home and community service. This is our zoning, planning and sanitation. Is considered that as well. Employee benefits is our health insurance costs, our workers' comp, our retirement. All of those lines. Debt service is our bond payments for items that we have borrowed on in the past. Most of our principal payments are not due until September, October, and November. So that's why that number's, it looks small now compared to the actual budget amount, which is around 3 million. And then interfund transfers, and that's that transfer to the capital fund that we did, and then transfers to Section 8 are also contained in that line. Okay, so if we go to the next slide. This is Corporation Council's slide. So the department is within budget for 2023 on all expenditure lines. Judgment and claims expenditures are at 97% at the 100,000 budget amount. But tax surcharge claims total 10% of the budget at 13,000. And that budget line I should have put in there is 125,000 for our tax certs. So we are hopeful that we don't receive too many more of those this year. And then that will offset if we have any overages in the other lines. Labor and special counsel are at 27% of the budget. So that's a nice place to be. And below that, you can see the graph of the 3 years comparison. Okay, next slide. Police department is within or under budget on all expenditure lines. Thank you, chief. Open positions during the first half of 2023 are generating cost savings estimated at about 330,000. And total expenditures equal 41% of total budget. I believe at this point we have 4 unfilled positions, I believe.
Depends what hour of the day.
Okay. Oh, all right. Because I was working on the salary schedule for next year's budget to
Mhm.
try to keep everything in line. So the next slide, Manuel, is the building department. So the building department is under budget for regular salary lines at this point to date, it's 83,000 under budget. And we are over budget for our overtime expenses currently at 13,000. So we are saving on the one side, but incurring overtime expenditure on the other side.
I guess Karen, then it's just not right now, obviously, but Karen, I would like to get a little more detail on the overtime on the building department itself. I know it's not a lot of money for $13,000 within the 6 months, more or less.
Months, yeah.
And I get it. but I would like to kind of see what happened last year, at least to see the trend in the last 3 years and just trying to understand that. I know that we've been having openings, which we do not have that anymore. So I would like to kind of see where does that fall and how do we, are we expecting the next 6 months to have the same $13,000 more or less, or actually not having overtime at all? You don't have to answer that right now. We can have that a different conversation all the time.
Made a note. Thank you. Okay, the next slide is our DPW department expenditures. The DPW budget lines are well within budget. Personnel expenses reached 46% of budget with slight savings for unfilled positions. Equipment expenditures total 1% of budget and contractual expenses equal 37% for the first half of 2023. I will be keeping an eye on the gas and diesel lines. They're okay right now, but it seems that they're trending higher for those prices. So we will keep an eye to make sure that our budget is in line.
Yeah, that's a little weird, because this
Yeah.
time last year, they were actually higher.
Mm,
You know, oil was actually, has gone up and down. I mean, the graph is like this.
mhm,
Basically, it's like this.
mhm.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
right.
They shouldn't be using. this. Then don't we have more electric vehicles this year than we had last year?
I don't think so, because I think we had the building department vehicles last
Okay.
year.
All right.
Okay, the next slide is the Park and Recreation Department and also the Youth Bureau is in here. So their overall budget is on target with 42% of the budget reached in the first half. July to September are high activity months, equaling higher expenditures for camp and other seasonal programs. The Youth Bureau expenditures equal 36% of the $205,000 budgeted, with grant funds awarded of $184,000 to offset expenditures for the Youth Bureau. Okay. The next slide, benefits. We are below budget for mid-year at 39% of the total budget for 2023, primarily due to open positions reducing costs. And then I go to my question slide.
I'm sorry, Dale, and this is the only question I have. Great work as always. So the last slide, how many open positions do we have throughout the, I'm assuming this is throughout the village, correct? Without excluding the police department.
That includes.
That includes the police department? The
Because
last-
there's only
okay.
one health. I
So-
do parse it out at the end of the year to the different functions. They call it a function.
Okay.
More or less.
Believe in the building department, there's still a code enforcement open position. There are there's one caretaker position open. There is the four for police. I want to say that's it, but I'm thinking I forgot one.
Okay,
I
so-
can't think of it, but that's approximately.
Mhm,
Okay,
number of
so,
open
okay,
positions.
got it.
That's pretty good.
I mean,
mm.
besides the police department, we only have two. Yeah.
One caretaker, you said.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. There is one in Park and Rec. Yeah, because I asked,
So it's two.
I asked Bill about it
Yeah.
this afternoon.
And I'm sorry, are we looking to fill those positions besides the code enforcement? Because that's a civil servant job, obviously, and that's a list.
Yeah, I think we're looking to fill those positions. I don't think there are any that we're not going to fill.
Okay, is that advertised in our website on the personnel?
I have to determine where we are with that. I'm not sure just because it's open, we've actually gone to, I'm not, I'd have to check with Marissa on what we're canvassing for right now, so.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
so I guess if anything, please update, if there's nothing in their website, make sure that that gets
Yeah,
updated.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, last thing, this whole presentation, including your presentation, Karen, I know it's not in our website, but that's gonna be part of our website as well, as a part of the agenda or somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we sometimes noodle with it to the last minute, so we usually don't post it till the next day,
Okay,
but it'll go up.
It'll be part of the minutes.
But it'll be up probably tomorrow, the next day, I would think. Okay. Such a huge, thank you, Dale,
Thank you.
from just like a handful of years ago. It's like a world of difference, so much more professional, so much easier to understand. So, it's really great. Thank you.
Moving on, Corporation Council. Yet we share mics.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. Karen mentioned in her presentation about 30 Water Street. There was published today on the DEC website the notification with regard to the brownfield application. The public comment period is now open. And I believe it is until September the 16th that you can comment. We'll put this notice up on the website so if folks want to look, because all the documents with regard to the brownfield application are there. One of the most important documents that is in that application is the letter from Con Edison, which requests that this particular project be removed from the consent order and go into the brownfield program, which was a letter that we were waiting for from Con Ed, so that they can proceed with that. And that letter was dated May 5th, but just went into the program. So
Letter was dated May 5th.
From Con Ed. Well, it's part of the application, so but it was a key component of the application was to get Con Ed's
We'll
group.
step up and start moving on this.
Well, what Con Ed is, well, this is really Con Ed stepping up, which is basically saying we are agreeing that this project should come out of the
Right.
consent. So, which is really what we wanted to do.
Yeah, no, I understand. I spoke to him earlier.
In addition, since this is August, there are no planning board meetings this month, or zoning board, or EAC, or HPC. However, I did want to thank
Excuse
all.
me, Stuart, before you go on to the next one, before you get to that. When we spoke earlier, you sort of mentioned maybe should the board be putting a letter together and submitting something? Is that overkill? Like,
I-
are we supposed to be doing anything with this brownfield?
I don't think
to
there's
push it?
I don't think there's anything that the board needs to do.
Okay,
As I said, all of the documents regarding the application are there. They are voluminous. But it's mainly, if any members of the public want to comment on it, they can comment
Okay.
directly to the DEC. They can send it either by email or letter. But it's just part of the process. I don't think that this board needs to send anything. They always can, but I don't believe it's necessary at this particular point.
okay.
What I was mentioning in terms of all our land use boards is that they take August off in the sense that there's no meetings, but there are applications that continue to be filed. It has been an exceptionally busy first part of the year for all four of those boards. All of them have dealt with multiple applications. Our EAC with Kate Schlott as chair has dealt not only with both LW, local waterfront revitalization program issues, which it is required to under code, but also now with freshwater wetlands applications, which they have had to deal with. And with recently an application on Brook Place, and they provided recommendations to the planning board. Our HPC has been busy with regard to not only reviewing the historic buildings guidelines, which will be revised, but also with numerous signed solar and other applications within the historic district and with regard to historic buildings. And that's under Chair Dan Garbowit. HPC and Planning Board BAR under Seth Roy has been very, very busy with applications for 30 Water Street, 136-140 Croton Avenue, and many other projects that come before that board. And finally, our ZBA, again, with many projects. If one looks at the agendas beginning in January to now, it's I don't know what the number is, but they have been exceptionally busy. And that also means to send a shout out to Jamie Kane, who sort of corrals everybody at the same time with all this stuff. Maddie Zaha's, who has taken over a good sort of umbrella role with regard to those. Our planning consultant, Valerie Monastra, and our legal counsel, Linda Whitehead, because those boards provide an essential function to this village. And, they're all volunteer boards. We've had some change in membership over the past couple of months, but they're all very active and do a great deal. And I just wanted to, personally thank all of them for what they do. They have a well-deserved month off. And I'm sure that when the applications start coming in, which they already have, the first meeting will be the HPC, and it won't be the first Monday in September, because that'll be Labor Day, so it'll be the following week, but EAC will be that week, and they already have things on their agendas. So my thanks to all of them. That's it from Corp Counsel. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Chief Sylvester, Police Chief.
Good evening. Just a couple quick things from the police department. Our mobile food pantry operation is continuing significantly. A couple of weeks ago, when we had a tremendous amount of rainfall, typical Ossining scene where the paint warehouse across the street allowed us access to their warehouse, so we could set up our mobile food pantry indoors and allow all of our neighbors to stay in and stay dry. So not just good work by the police department, but a good neighborhood effort to make sure that there are groceries in every pantry and food on every table. This past weekend, we participated in a community field day down at Nelson Park with a variety of community groups. Our recruits remain in the police academy. Field training is continuing, and today marks 1 year of the Westchester County Mobile Crisis Response Team in Ossining.
Any comments?
Yep. Nope,
Okay.
great.
Organizational announcements. Announcements should be event related and shall last no more than 2 minutes. Is there anyone that wants
I
to?
actually have one. Anybody else on there, Jamie?
There are, if you're in the gallery and you'd like to say something, if you can raise your hand. It doesn't look like the people in there want to speak. Thank you.
Okay, I should have said this in my announcements, and I neglected to, so I just want to say it because it is organizational. And that is that the Ossining Sankofa Homecoming is happening this weekend, August 4 through 6th, honoring our past, building our future. It'll be a weekend of events. Sankofa, I think this may be the second or third one they've done, and Sankofa translates to go back to fetch it. It is a Drinkwa word from the Akan people of Africa. That means we must go back and reclaim our past so that we can move forward to a better future. The Sankofa bird looks behind while flying forward so that the past might inform the future journey. It's a symbol of the wisdom of learning from the past in building the future. So if you go to Ossining Sankofa, you can get your tickets. In Market Square, there's going to be a ceremony honoring their honorees this year, one of whom is our own Joyce Sherrock Cole, village historian. So that's happening.
Thank you. Public comments on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the Zoom world that would like to do that?
I would like to ask the Zoomers to raise your hand. No, it doesn't look like anyone in the gallery wants to participate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not relating to the agenda, but in relevance to the common good of the village. Is there anyone that would like to do that?
If anyone would like to participate, please raise your hands, your virtual hands. It doesn't look like anyone wants to participate. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the village board resolutions.
Can I just, I need to get some water and stuff. I could just do it myself, but does anybody else besides me need a break for 2-3 minutes, or should we just keep going? Everybody okay? All right, go ahead.
Okay. Approval of minutes, July 6, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of July 6, 2023 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
You seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We weren't there?
Why don't we take a,
There were three of
We weren't, Bob and myself.
July
were not.
sixth? Oh, then I abstain.
they abstained.
My
so-
apologies.
so, trustee White, would you like to, second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Why don't we take a 2-minute break so that
Yes, yeah.
you can get water and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
Because I
All right.
just realized I put.
So that's a 3 and 2 abstain.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can really get rocking and rolling.
I'm not gonna read the, get up there, but I'll read the. No, the budget. Yeah.
Oh, no, of course.
Yeah, okay, good. Which will be posted. What? It's punishment.
Hey.
Okay.
All right, Bob's on his way back.
Okay, approval of minutes, July 19th, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of July 19th, 2023 at the regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
A move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
We're not here. Okay.
Right.
Okay, and that would be Omar Lopez. Okay, approval of minutes, July 26, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the July 26, 2023 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolve, voucher detail report. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated August 2nd, 2023 in the amount of $896,878.71. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
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 This will be a roll call vote. Adoption of local law number 8, 2023, a local law amending chapter 250 vehicles and traffic in the the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, the Village Board has been considering the adoption of a local law dash 2023 entitled Local Law Amending Chapter 250 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 250-31 Municipal Parking Lots, 250-32 Parking Time Limits as designated in the municipal parking lots, and 250-33 permit parking fees in the Village of Ossining Code. And whereas a public hearing was conducted on July 19th, 2023 at 7:30 PM in the municipal building, 16 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York, and via Zoom platform, affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on July 19th, 2023, and whereas there was no impediments to approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining adopts local law 8-2023, local law amending chapter 250 vehicles and traffic, and directs said local law to be filed and distributed in accordance with the applicable law. And be it further resolved that local law 8-2023 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay, roll call. Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Casada,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, this is the next one will be a roll call vote again. It's a local law number 9, 2023, a local law adding chapter 7, candidate disclosure to Village of Austining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees in the Village of Austining, the Village Board has been considering the adoption of a proposed law 2023 entitled the local law adding chapter 7, candidate disclosure to the Austining code. And whereas the public hearing was conducted on July 19th, 2023 at 7:30 PM in the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austining, New York, and via Zoom platform, affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on July 19th, 2023. Sorry. And whereas there are no impediments to improving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby adopts local law 9-2023, local law adding chapter 7, candidate disclosure, and directs that local law to be filed and distributed in accord with the applicable law, and therefore, and then further resolved that the local law number 9-2023 shall be effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any comments? I just like to make a quick comment. Deputy Mayor Lopez brought this to our attention. We all read it, we saw it. I just need somebody to see if any other municipality is passing this. The county passed this ethics code. So Stuart, I don't know if it's something that NICOM can do for us, but I'm not aware that anybody else is doing this except for us, which I'm very proud of, by the way.
When we first wrote it,
Mhm.
there were no other municipalities in Westchester. I did not find any other statewide when we did a search on municipal code. I can check subsequent, but when we
Yeah.
first put this on, we were the only one.
Right, I remember. I'm very proud of this board for bringing this forward and passing it. Ethics at the national level has become a big topic of conversation. It's become an unfortunate situation, so I think we're setting the right bar here. I thank everybody for that, but I would like to know if we're still the only ones, because the county executive had suggested that municipalities sort of join in, but nobody took them up on it, except I think for us. And is the town doing a similar thing that you know? Okay,
Roll call vote. Trustee Pritchie,
Aye.
Trustee, Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Casada,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
aye.
This again is a roll call vote. Adoption of local law number 10, 2023, a local law amending chapter 57 video conferencing by public bodies to the Village of Austining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees, the Village Board, has been considering the adoption of local law 2023 entitled a local law amending chapter 57 video conferencing by public bodies to the Village of Austining Code. And whereas the public hearing was conducted on July 19th, 2023 at 7:30 PM in the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austining, New York, and via Zoom platform affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on July 19th, 2023, and whereas there are no impediments to approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts local law 10-2023, a local law amending chapter 57 video conferencing by public bodies, and directs said law to be filed and distributed in accordance with the applicable law, and therefore be it resolved that local law 10-2023 shall be effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Comments?
Roll call vote. Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Casada,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, authorization to authorize rescinding of $3 million WIIA grant project 18532 for the design and construction of the new water treatment plant. Whereas in 2019, the New York State Environmental Facilities Corp., EFC, awarded the Village of Ossining a Water Infrastructure Improvement Grant, or WIIA, grant for $3 million and for project number 18532 for the design and construction of new water treatment plant to replace the existing Indian Brook treatment plant. And whereas the Board of Trustees authorized the submission of an intermunicipal water infrastructure grant, IMG, to the EFC for the construction of the new water treatment plant that could result in a award of $30 million. And whereas the village's IMG application to be considered, the EFC rules require that the $3 million WIIA award be rescinded. And whereas the Board of Trustees discussed this topic at the July 26th work session, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village manager to send a letter to the EFC rescinding the $3 million WIIA grant, project number 18532, for the design and construction of the new water treatment plant. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Adoption of the revised procedures of video conferencing at meetings. Whereas section 57-3B of the Village Code provides written procedures governing members of the public attendance shall be established by the public body, and such procedures shall be conspicuously posted in the public body's webpage. And whereas the Board of Trustees have adopted law number 10-2023, amending chapter 57 of the code, video conferencing of public bodies, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts the revised procedures of video conferencings for mayors and made part of this resolution. And be it further resolved that the revised procedures will conspicuously be posted on the village website. The procedures will also be posted on the clerk's bulletin board, so we will not be reading them. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, authorizing settlement for Henry O. Pattern Accuro. Whereas Henry O. Pattern Accuro alleges his motor vehicle was damaged as a result of an accident in a village-owned vehicle on July 17th, 2023. And whereas Village's Corporation Council reviewed the documents submitted by the claimant, village staff and the Ossining Police Department have concluded the settlement, this claim is warranted. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining authorize settlement of the claim of Henry O. Pattern Accuro and be it further resolved that the treasurer of the Village of Ossining is hereby authorized to directly pay settlement proceeding of $5,961.26 to Henry O. Pattern Accuro, 2 Callum Place, Ossining, New York, upon delivery to the village of a release signed by Henry O. Pattern Accuro. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Just Callum Avenue, not Callum Place.
I'm sorry. You are correct. So do I have a motion for the amended?
So moved.
Second.
Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposition to the discharge of contaminated water into the Hudson River. Whereas Haltech Decommissioning International LLC, the company decommissioning Indian Point nuclear power plant, has announced its intentions to release water from the on-site radioactive fuel waste pools into the Hudson River. And whereas to date, there is no specific reporting of the thank you, sir, radioactive forms of element contents of this water that is heavily contaminated from the storage of the nuclear power waste. And whereas pre-release filtrations to remove the radioactive isotopes has been presented as a solution to reduce the contents of the thank you, contents of the level in the low as reasonably achievable. And whereas the National Academy of Sciences has indicated there is no viable safe levels of these radioactive isotopes to be ingested or inhaled. And whereas as pre-release treatment would not remove tritium or the carcinogenic from the water. And whereas carcinogenics in the Hudson River, now I'm not laughing at this very serious issue. I want to make that clear. I'm laughing at myself. Contaminants in the Hudson River represents a risk to entering the food chain. And whereas the community members depend on fish of the Hudson River as a food source, and whereas the 7 uphill communities which source their drinking waters from the Hudson River, and whereas the Hudson River is an estuary flowing south to north and north to south, and whereas the Hudson River also serves as a source of recreation activities and represents a economic resource, will endanger the planned actions of the, will be endangered by the planned actions of the Holtec Decommissioning International LLC. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining opposes the plan to release over 1 million gallons of contaminated water from the Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant into the Hudson River. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Any comments? I'll just comment, this came from a member of our community, Susie Ross, who's involved with Green Ossining. We'll put in the agenda, we're joining many municipalities on the river. It's all over the news. I don't want to be redundant here. You could just look this up and what the issues are. State legislators are involved with this, our governor. It continues to be a story of, what can go into the Hudson River, which many years ago was so polluted you could not swim in it, and that has been reversed, and no municipality wants to go back to those days. So we're just joining many municipalities. I think the supervisor from the town was actually at a meeting with the company, and so this is an ongoing issue, and we are joining or other municipalities on this issue.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department, removal from active roles, Hollow Hose Company number 5. Resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby removes Jesse Abu from the active roles of the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department, Hollow Hose Company number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department, removal from active roles, Hollow Hose Company number 5. Resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby removes Louis Soldner from the active roles of the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department, Hollow Hose number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Fire Department, removal from active roles, Hollow Hose number 5. Resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby removes Damian Gillespie from the active roles of the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department, Hollow Hose number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Fire Department, removal from active roles, Hollow Hose number 5, Company number 5. Resolved that the Board of Trustees removes Alfredo Friedrich from the active roles of the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department, Hollow Hose number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Resolution authorizing the village manager to execute such documents as necessary to complete the application for the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement, which is our WIIA grant program. Whereas the Village of Ossining is seeking to rebuild the Indian Point Water Treatment Plant, IBWTP, and whereas the project is expected to be competitively bid under New York State statutes in July 2023, and whereas the project will be funded by bond revenue and the Village of Ossining water fund balance, and whereas the village intends to apply for financial assistance in the amount of $5 million from the New York State Water Infrastructure WIIA grant program to offset local expense of the Indian Point Water Treatment Plant project, and now therefore be it resolved that the village manager is authorized to execute such documents necessary to complete the application for the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Grant Program, subject to review and approval of Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So
so
moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is the change for the 2023 Fee schedule parking meters, which will be posted on the webpage and on the clerk's bulletin board. Just the resolve. Resolved that this change for the 2023 fee schedule shall go into effect immediately. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any continuing business of the board?
I don't have a continuing business, but Stuart, these numbers of all the lots, the zones and everything, the meter zones, it's a little confusing. Are there names to this or it's always numbers?
The zones are all numbered.
Okay, if I go on there,
It-
okay.
It got more confusing when there were names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. New business of the board.
I think there is.
Yes, there is. Village manager?
Good evening, everybody. So the board had indicated its desire to improve our boardroom in keeping with our ability to really provide the best audio and visual access to our viewers. Since we now work on Zoom, GoTV, any number of ways people can see us in addition to coming here in person. So using PEG monies that are designated for that purpose of public access, we have put together a budget that was based on a meeting that we had with Trustee Fritchie and Deputy Mayor Lopez, along with our staff, Andy Teese, Paul Fraioli, Jamie Hoffman, to discuss, and Christina LeBeau, to discuss those renovations, which include lighting, flooring, as well as IT wiring and mics and a few other items. And we estimate that it will be approximately $55,000 to complete those renovations. Hopefully we can do it under budget, but that's our working budget right now. That would also include a new table and chairs that would potentially also be able to be flexible for the room, but also maybe serve a better purpose than the ones doing that are here right now that sometimes don't really fit appropriately, and it makes it difficult to seat everybody that's needed to be seated. So we've put together a budget, a resolution so that we can appropriate the funding from PEG money, from our PEG fund, and then commence on being able to do the upgrades in this room, which we would like to start soon, because if we do it during August, we have a little bit of downtime, and it makes it a little bit easier for staff and everybody else to do it than other times of the years when we tend to be much busier with town and village board meetings, because this would obviously benefit the town as well.
Okay. So the only thing is, I know we've had a couple of trustees involved, but at some point, I'm sure everybody wants to see exactly what's happening here. How's that going to get done?
So we talked in broad strokes about lighting. So really it's the lighting would be taking these chandelier lights out, recessed LED lights, and then retrofitting the lights around the room with LED lights too. Flooring would change. We talked about, and I think I have provided the board with all this information. My suggestion would be that if Trustee Fritchie and Deputy Mayor Lopez are available next week, that we could sit down and do a preliminary work meeting, go over some of the materials, make decisions on the materials, and then that can be shared with the board as well. And then it will give staff guidance so that we can go ahead with purchasing materials. A lot of the materials, the work is going to be done in-house. So for the ceiling and replacing the ceiling tiles, we will have to take down the molding, the recessed molding here. It's not going to be reusable, so that will be done a little bit differently in the ceiling tiles, but that'll all be done in-house. The electrical work would be done by our electrician of record, and flooring would be installed by the provider. We'd also have to do a sealing process that would protect it from moisture, and the wiring would be done by now I'm forgetting the name of the company who does the wiring we do for everything.
I've
else.
seen some of the things too, that the kitchen's being taken apart or whatever. I read some of that, but, the technology part.
Right.
Cameras and all that. I didn't see, that's all in
The
there.
the cameras would stay as is because it's just cost prohibitive and we don't really gain much by replacing them. Would up this significantly, and I'm not sure there's much to be gained by that. The kitchen we don't really use this as a kitchen, so it would be removing the sink and sort of the kitchen cabinets and just making it more conducive to what we really use it for, which is more for technology. We can get these computers out of the way so they're not
Good.
sitting here. So that would basically be the AV hub as opposed to the kitchen / AV hub.
All right, so the price includes virtually no new technology.
No, it does include the technology.
Okay.
It does.
The mic, so all new mic.
Mics, the wiring, the all the electrical work.
Okay.
And that's basically all the AV stuff that we have
Okay,
incorporated. But again, the flooring is for sound amplification.
Understood.
And so all of these things complement each other in a way that makes it justifies the PEG expenditures.
And I guess just a quick question, and probably is a repetitive question itself. Any electrical work or any plumbing work that typically requires a permit, and requires inspections, that's gonna be done as well as part of this whole thing? That's part of the
Anything
whole
that would be
process?
required, yeah.
So we're gonna file within our building department, but inspections are gonna be done appropriately, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
anything else?
Okay, we can, if the board agrees, we have a resolution that we can read.
Share your mic.
Sure.
Okay. Got it. Resolved, the 2023 general fund budget is modified to increase the municipal building equipment appropriations account and to appropriate PEG fund balance for studio broadcasting equipment and improvements. And whereas the total estimated costs for the improvements require a budget adjustment from PEG revenues, now therefore be it resolved, expenditure and revenue accounts for revenue account budgets are adjusted as follows, and the numbers are then listed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we thank our two trustees for so diligently continuing with this project with the staff
Sure.
to get it all done.
okay, there's one more, declare equipment as surplus in new business. Resolved that upon recommendation of the village manager, the Board of Trustees determines that the Lintexa Ultra
is that?
Nexon 2x22 channel digital video server recorder router is surplus and the village manager is authorized to dispose of this equipment. Dispose?
What is this?
Yeah.
Like, what equipment are we talking about here?
Would you
Would-
like me to explain?
Yes.
Oh,
It's what transfers the feed from the camera to the cable channel. So it must have been broken, and which is why we've had so many issues recovering our cable channel, but it's been replaced and we had it tested today and it doesn't work. So
Okay.
it's both of us.
So basically, we're throwing this stuff out.
Basically.
Yeah, we tried to sell it, but no one can buy it because it's broken.
So shocking. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's over
So
25 years
You
old.
already have a new
We
one. This
already-
No,
one
no,
is a
they already
surplus.
replaced. This is
We
to
don't
get
need
rid
to
of it.
replace
Instead of,
it.
instead of doing
It was
something. like-
literally surplus.
You can't, it's a municipality. You can't just throw things
No.
in the garbage. They have to pass resolutions in order to, even if you're throwing it in the garbage, which I think is what they're doing here, they have to get permission to do that.
Into the recyclable.
I was gonna say, you're
electronic-
putting it out on the e-waste day, Friday.
Yes.
We have special cars that come and pick it up.
Yeah.
Do you have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I
Terrific.
just briefly just add one thing? So while we're working on this room, we're going to try to do it as quickly as possible so we can get back in here. And then we'll work on a tighter timing schedule, but could take about a month or longer depending on how things go, but not too much longer than that. We possibly can start after next Wednesday so that next week we can have the meetings here, so it won't really interrupt our August meetings, and then we'll try to get as much as we can done.
Canceled some of our August
Right,
meetings.
so
anyway,
if we
right?
have it next week, then we really don't impact the rest of August. There may be some September meetings, depending how quickly we can move, that we'd have to do in the ops center, but we have to set that up. And then hopefully by the end of September, in early October, we're back to the courthouse on alternate for legislative meetings. anyway.
And the town doesn't do business meetings or regular meetings. They only do legislative, and they're probably,
But in the summer, they do a work session every week, except for this August.
oh,
They're-
really?
They're
I
just
thought that they
skipping
do
one.
it.
They're just
Oh, I thought
skipping
that
one.
they don't do that. or
Oh,
they
no, they
used to
do do
not.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted
Oh,
to
what was the-
note that, and we'll have that scheduled once we, and then trustee Fritchie and trustee Lopez, if you can let me know your availability next week, we can sit down and have
Monday.
a meeting and we can accommodate people via Zoom or here, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. 9:35 approximately. There's no exec session, so we are done for the evening. We will see everybody next week. Have a great evening.
Excellent.